So then on top of this, you guys have the dungeon
Mhm.
for 16 days you said he was in and stuff like that. So I'm looking at an article that you're in, Renee,
Oh,
actually.
am I?
Yeah, yeah. I found this one,
Oh
the
my
You're
gosh.
Cowboy
famous.
State Daily. It
Oh,
says it's Renee's article here, and it says that you are not a believer.
really?
Yeah.
Does
Wait, I just saw it. Let me see if I can find it again. Because you were doing you were talking about things, about the prison, and
yeah.
oh, where did I see it now? Oh, here it is. That you were talking about the Greenwald spirit that haunts the halls
Oh,
of the
yeah.
prison, but they
Yeah.
said, but she's also not a believer.
So Cowboy stayed daily, and I think on that one it was not a believer of that that Julius is there,
Hmm.
but of everything else, and I because I think I'm trying to remember. I think he was the one that came when we were doing the investigations. Is when he was there, and I could be wrong because we had so many like people come out and do articles and stuff like that. So I'm trying to remember which one it was. Like
Yeah,
State Daily, I'm like, nah,
I
I
don't.
never liked those guys anyway. Oh wait, I shouldn't say that. Whoops.
Edit time.
Right.
Time to edit that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like looking at certain things about the prison and everything, and I'm
Yeah.
like reading it. I'm like, wait a minute, I know that name.
Right.
So I read it a little bit more. I'm like, oh, look at that, it is Renee.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of folks come out. We did so one of when we started our investigations, the night tours that we call them, the paranormal investigations, we partnered with one of the teams out in Colorado, and one of the guys on there was actually he worked at the Stanley,
Oh,
Connor Randall, and so him and um God, why is his name blanking on me? But anyway, it'll come to me. Him and another member of the team from the Stanley, they're the ones that invented the Estes method. They're the
oh,
ones that started that at the Stanley. And so when we had Connor was actually one of the ones that actually saw that shadow figure, come into view at the prison. And
wow.
so there was a lot of great, I think, stuff that came out of the prison, and a
Mhm.
lot of good evidence that we can actually say it's there's things there. It's definitely, I would say it's haunted. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of we actually caught. We would close up the prison and we just leave a recorder running, and there were times where like it would be on a Tuesday night, and I'd go up there and I say, I'm just gonna leave a recorder running all night, see what happens,
Yeah.
see what I get. And I left it up in the dining hall, and the whistles came through, female voices came through, a lot of keys, like the rustling of the keys,
Hmm.
like on a key, like you would hear on a larger keychain, and then slamming of the cell doors. And so it's one of those things as I'm listening to it going, oh crap, this is cool, and just getting that almost that validation, because of the stuff that would happen up in my office. My office was actually on the second floor of the broom factory. And so I had a lot of stuff that would happen, stuff that would get like misplaced, and I'm like, I left it here. I know I did. And then a week later, I'd find it in the same place that I knew I left it in. Boxes would be kind of thrown in our archives area. I'd have boxes that were like thrown off to the side, and I was like, okay, I don't remember putting the box there. I know I had put it over there. And it's just one of those things as you're walking through and going, okay, things are being moved. And so it was funny because there was frustration with whoever it was, kept moving a box. And it was getting on my last nerve because the box kept moving, and it was a box that I needed, and it kept getting moved. And after a month of this box moving, the last time when I looked for it, and I stood there in the middle of the archives, and whoever it was probably thought I was crazy. I was like, "Can you stop moving the box? This is something I need." And I just like yelled, like mom voiced it, and I was like, "Stop it!" And then after that, it stopped. You know, it was just one of those things that, and then little things, you'd hear things, and it would always kept me on my toes.
Yeah.
Always kept me on my toes.
Anything that like truly scared any of the staff where they just, or like was threatening, like you know what I mean, where they felt threatened or there was some kind of physical contact from the spirit?
So one of our investigators, who's very sensitive to, she's able to hear their voices, and her and I were investigating. It was probably when I first met her, and we were up in the women's section, and we were both kind of uneasy up there because that was where that darker entity always hung out. And so we were kind of uneasy in there anyway. And we were, doing a recording session, and we were asking questions back and forth. We had the recorder, and we were like, okay, we're going to go ahead and leave. And so we started to walk out, and there's a step that goes from the cell down into the floor. So it's not very big. It's probably like about maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. It's not very big. But she tripped, or at least I thought she tripped. So she tripped and she fell, and I went and helped her, got her up. Come to find out, like a week later, she was actually pushed out of the cell.
Oh.
And she didn't tell anybody that she was pushed. And which kind of like our lead investigator was a little upset because he's like, wow, why'd you tell you anything? We could have went back up there and like tried to figure this out, and all this other stuff. But I think it caught her off guard. And then at the same time, she's like, well, I didn't want to freak Renee out. Because that's when I was like barely starting to like get into investigating and stuff like that. But she was pushed hard because, and like I said, I thought she had tripped, but she actually fell on the floor. And so that was the only time that I think anything was physical in the prison that I know of.
Did she hear anything prior to being pushed? I mean, obviously she didn't say anything because like you said,
Right.
she didn't say anything to you initially, but later on, did she talk about like that she heard something or she felt like there was something trying to contact her before it had happened?
Not that she told me.
Okay.
And I don't know if she told anybody else. I should ask her. But yeah, that was probably one of the only times like physical that, like I said, that I know of. As far as like being scared, I think that first time that I went to take the lanterns in, that really that scared me. And then there was another time when we had a couple of YouTube investigators come. And they're pretty popular on YouTube. And they came out and did and after they left, the next day, that night that I was closing, it did not feel safe for me to go in there. So I don't know if they opened some stuff up or they riled some stuff up. But that night, because I didn't open that morning, because I obviously was on the investigation and I slept in, and then I worked the next afternoon. And so when I was closing up, walked upstairs to start my closing routine, and I like kind of stood in the dining room and I was like, oh, this is not good. This does not feel good at all. And it just felt like everything wanted me gone. Like, you need to get out of here. And so I don't run, period. And I ran, like high jogged out and just did all my closing duties really quick. And it took me like maybe 5 minutes to close that prison. Cause I was like, this does not feel right. And it just felt really off. And so we ended up, I called our team back and I asked if someone could come and just at least close anything that maybe they had opened, if
Mhm.
that was the case or something. And so one of our team members came and was, helped me in doing that. But it just, yeah, I think they just kind of riled some things up and upset them.
Do you know if those investigators had a provoking style that maybe caused some of that activity?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And that was, I think, that was kind of where then we stopped getting people from the outside to come in, that we weren't familiar with. It wasn't until I had really dove deep into their YouTube and I was like, I should have known, I should have known, but you live and you learn.
Right. Do you guys have cameras? I'm assuming since it's a museum and all that, you guys got security cameras in the building that you would watch later on going, okay, kind of like what we do. We have our
Right.
security cameras that our DVR system, and we watch everything that we do during an investigation. Do you guys ever do that where you went back and looked at the cameras and seen anything on the cameras that made you kind of scratch your head and go,
So the cameras that we did have were up in the women's section, because we have rifles up there on display, and so there's cameras there. I'm not probably at liberty to say where else all the other cameras are.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just did you guys go back and...
that one area, that area was just that was kind of a hot. There were times where I'd scan through the cameras as I'm working, and I just let them run, and I was like, wait a minute, what was that? And I rewind it, and I'm like, that seems kind of sus, or something like that, it's just, and I kind of rewind it again and stuff, and I'd show my boss, and my boss oh, it's probably just a glitch, it's fine, it's okay.
It's always a glitch.
Right?
Yeah.
Darn
Always
Matrix.
a glitch. Always a glitch.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
So obviously they're not doing those investigations anymore, right? They kind of shut that down. Obviously, because you get those people in there. Somebody always has to ruin it for the rest of us. But
well, one, and I left.
Well, yeah.
And so because the other person they brought in doesn't do that stuff and wasn't willing to stay up, at night. And so that kind of just went by the wayside. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate.
Do they admit that the place is haunted?
No.
Because I know I've been to places that they're like, no, it's not haunted. And I'm like, yes, it is. I know that because I've been there and I've investigated it.
Yeah, but they won't because the current administration there won't admit that. So, yeah.
So what I hear you saying is you just go into the museum during the day, bring some recorders with you and pretend that you're not investigating, but investigating.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am not telling anybody to do that. I'm just saying.
Right? It's fun. I mean, the place itself is great. It's got a lot of great history, and we've had folks do that during the day. There'll be times where I'm walking through the prison and I'm like, oh, all right, I'm just going to walk this way, and just kind of let it go because, go for it. As long as you're not disrupting anybody else and you're not, setting up a whole perimeter, then you're fine. It's just, but as far as night investigations, that's unfortunately they don't do those anymore,
Yeah. Well, everything has to come to an end, so including nighttime investigations. Yeah. And like I said, I've been to places that, I know is haunted, and now they'll sit there and they have their disclaimer on their website saying, no, it's not haunted. And I'm like, but I have the evidence that says it is. But okay, it's their prerogative, but at least you were able to go in, you were able to experience some things, and the cool thing is you got to live through history.
Correct.
That's the main thing. That place is teeming with history. My dad used to take me on vacation when I was a kid out west because he loved the Wild West, and he would like
Mhm.
read all the Wild West magazines and everything. So like Deadwood, South Dakota, all that stuff was like my normal childhood, where other
Yeah.
people are like, I have no idea where any of this stuff is, you know. And I would be like, can I go to like New York or Boston or, you know, no, we're going here. I'm like, but there's nothing here. Now as an adult, I appreciate it. But as a
Right.
kid, I'm like, yeah, another sand, dust. Woo, yay. Lincoln prison, here
Yeah.
we go. And, you know, stuff like that. But it's cool to look back and say, I walked through the same area that Butch Cassidy walked through, you know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
all these guys that, you know, McKinney, who, yeah, he does not, I mean, when you look at his picture, he looks like somebody from today's, you know, he doesn't look like the typical outlaw from back
Right.
then. You know, he looks like he could fit in to today's society.
Yeah. Well, same with Butch, right? Butch
Yeah,
Cassidy, yeah, he has that look. And a
right.
lot of those guys, you know, is what's neat is the prison has, you know, large pictures of different prisoners up on the wall. And you look at some of these guys, and there were times where I'd walk through the prison just by myself and I'd stare at them and I'm like, what were you guys thinking like when they took your picture? You know?
Right.
And we had prisoners as young as 14 that went into prison at that time. And I think the oldest prisoner was 82, was our oldest prisoner. And so thinking about how long these guys and women, how long they stayed in prison, or how their lives changed, you know, between the time of them coming in and coming out. You know, some of these guys were in there for 30, 40 years. And at that time, you get from 1900, you know, to 1940, and when they're released, and
Mhm.
everything that happened in that time period, you know, so much has happened. And then they come out and all this technology and,
Right.
you know,
What's a
their life has
TV? What's a radio? What's a telephone? Like none of that
exactly.
existed for them.
Yeah,
Sliced bread, you know, like Wonder Bread. What is that? You know, weird
absolutely.
thing. Well, that even happens nowadays too. I mean, some of
Right.
these guys that went in like 1980s, they're still in there and they come out, you know, in 24. And what's a smartphone? You
Right.
know, I'm used to a rotary phone. I know people that are listening, and what's a rotary phone? You stick your finger in the little hole and you push it
Turn it.
around, and then
Yeah.
you let go. That's the number that you're going for. Whatever number that you stick your finger in the hole, that's a rotary phone. Yeah, I
Yeah.
spent
And
the whole
7 minutes later, you've completed your
You've
phone
completed
call.
your phone
right.
call.
And if
Oh, I got to redial. Oh,
right.
7 more minutes.
Oh, I don't
Oh
want to talk to you.
man,
I'm just going to take the phone off the hook and just leave it there. Listen to the beep for a couple of minutes and then nothing, silence.
yep,
Or you get really mad at somebody and slam the phone down.
Slam the phone.
yep.
Yeah.
Can't do that now.
Can't do that. And that's what these guys have no idea. Like, what was that? What, you know,
Right.
a car. Car
Yeah.
didn't exist. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so
So
weird to think about some of that stuff, especially in Wyoming. I mean,
right.
you know, people think about Wisconsin and, oh, you guys, I was told back in the day when I played football, I was going against some girls and they go, oh, you're from Wisconsin. So you guys live on farms. And I'm like, no. Because they go, you want to go cow tipping? And I'm like, what is cow tipping?
You're
They're
like,
like, what
what?
are you talking about? Like different areas, you know, you're in you think Wyoming, there's nothing there, but
Yeah.
it's not true. There is stuff there.
Oh
It
yeah.
just depends on where you live, and you know, the railways and stuff like that connected everybody through everything, and all that has changed. I mean, if you were to go back in time and look at the prison then versus the prison now, I'm sure it looks completely different landscape wise.
Landscape. Yeah. Yeah. The trees and everything else, you know, and even when I moved from Los Angeles to Wyoming, you know, the first thing my mom was like, why? You know, and are you gonna have running water? Yes. Yes, there is running water there, you know, and so there's this vision that people have of, you know, these certain places, especially Wyoming, you know, you think wide open spaces, and, you know, now with the popularity of the TV show Yellowstone, you know, how people think the West is,
Right.
and, you know, you have Longmire and stuff like that. And so it's it's interesting when people come to visit, and when they would come to visit the prison, on, the questions that they would come up and ask. It's like, well, is there anything else that we can do? Or where are the cowboys at? Or where are the horses at? Or where are the outlaws? And
Right.
that whole thing. And so there's this beauty about the Old West that people think is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so how much do we play into that? How much do we lean into it to get the tourists?
Right.
That type of thing,
Right.
So, yeah, but it was fun.
Well, I'm so glad that we were able to do this episode and talk about the prison and stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I love history.
Yes.
And my dad, like I said, kind of instilled the West in me and stuff like that. And yeah, it's not for everybody, but
Right.
it's definitely something that everybody should experience at least once in their life. And no, it's
Absolutely.
not, like you said, it's not like back in the day where you're going to see cowboys and the dust and the
Right.
what you see on TV. It's not that. The closest I came to that was like Tombstone when they do the OK Corral thing.
Oh,
And
right.
even that's not even how it actually played out. But that was like the closest that I would come in, to seeing some of that stuff. Everything now is commercialized. Of course, they live off of, like you said, tourism and stuff like that. But just if people have the chance to go out west and you're like, oh, there's nothing out there. No, there really is.
Right.
There is a lot of things out there. It's living history out there. Yeah, you might have to travel a distance to get to wherever you're going to, but I guarantee it's well worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
It's a fun museum, and there's other museums there in Laramie also that are great to visit. And then the downtown area is awesome. There's it's what started with the railroad. You get from the UP Railroad they were racing to connect with Utah over in Promontory Point.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this race, and that's where a lot of these towns started in the late 1800s, was because of the railroad.
Right.
Yeah.
But hopefully people will be able to go there. Hopefully we've shed some light onto a place that people didn't really know existed.
Yeah.
And no, not to just go there because it's haunted, but actually go there and learn some history. I know you probably didn't like history as a kid and the history books and stuff like that, but as a child that grew up with that stuff, and then I came back to school and my history teacher would try to tell me something and I would correct them, and they're like, well, how do you know? Well, I was just there in July and
Right.
this is what I learned. And I learned it from that location.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's awesome to do.
Yeah.
And it keeps history alive, which is
Oh,
important.
absolutely. Yeah. And you could see them make a broom at the prison. How cool is that?
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know I still did that.
It's so interesting. Yeah, it was probably one of the skills that I left with from the prison, was learning was making a broom. I can make a whisk broom. That's about it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Whatever works. So
Exactly. So,
Something you can use.
exactly. Yeah.
Sure can.
Well, guys, I appreciate this conversation. It was an awesome episode. Learned a lot. I'm interested to find out a little bit more about some of these guys that were in the prison and learn a little bit more about the prison. We're going to put the information about the prison on our Facebook page, our social media pages, so that people, you go on a vacation, go out west, definitely make Wyoming a stop, make Laramie a stop, check out the prison, and other things that are out there. And hey, you never know, you might want to go to college out there too. So,
Right.
Go Pokes.
see? But I think, we kind of hit everything that we possibly could about the museum and the prison itself and those that were in as prisoners. Unfortunately, they made that mistake in their lives, but because of their mistakes, we get to learn a little bit more about those people. good and bad. But, if you don't learn anything about them, then they didn't really exist. So, at least we have that. And you learn what not to do. Like try to say that your cows are in Nebraska instead of Wyoming and get in trouble with the law. But I appreciate it. It was great. I love this episode. It was a great episode.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think we're gonna say goodnight to everybody. And we will talk to everybody later. Anybody else got anything before we go? No, we kind of hit
If
it.
you want some cool reading material, and Renee, what really kind of caught my attention is the new curator, the new people that are sort of overseeing the prison. They're like, there's no activity here. Taliesin is Frank Lloyd Wright's home in Dodge, I think it's Dodge County in Wisconsin. Now there's no confirmed paranormal activity there, but when I was touring that property, and they kind of take you to like this area for like a little bit of a water and lunch break. They give you hand sandwiches and stuff, and I'm like, there's something really weird feeling here. So I went and asked one of the people giving the tour, I'm like, there's a lot of history here. Have you guys ever had any paranormal activity? He's like, oh, there's this story of a lover of Frank Lloyd Wright's that was there with her family.
Yep.
7 people axe murdered. Part of the house burned down. And he was so quick to say, no, there's never been anything here. Nobody that worked you ever seen any or heard any felt anything. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
So
Wow.
Mama Borthwick is the name. I threw it in chat for us. But yeah, it's some interesting bedtime reading, and
Yeah.
I kind of would love to go back. I wish I could do the thing, Renee, where you're like kind of inconspicuous, like holding on to something.
Right.
It's a very monitored tour though, so that's a downside. But yeah, that place was very interesting, and gosh, I wish that they would allow a little bit of free roam investigating there, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that there is nothing there. I mean, 7 people axe murdered. It just seems a little out of place.
Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't equate to them not having anything.
Yeah, it was almost, it's like the equivalent of Villisca. That's what this story was, where Frank Lloyd Wright was out of town at the time when they were killed.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it wasn't his wife was having an affair. I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I can't remember all the details of the story, but there was a romantic relationship between Frank Lloyd Wright and this woman that was there visiting with her 2 kids, which was part of the murder victims. It's just like there's got to be so much more to what's going on at this property that they just
it was like the help
don't
was
share.
the one that started the fire.
Yeah,
he was the one that killed the family.
Yep.
And then he got out of the window, I believe it was, and that's where he was the one that survived.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so kind of to add on to what we were talking about. So the prison in Rawlins is where our prison moved to. So the prison in Laramie, when it shut down, it moved to Rawlins. They allow investigations.
Oh.
And let me tell you, even going on the tour during the day, it's creepy as hell.
Road trip.
You can feel things. And so we went this past summer before I moved out here, and we took my grandson, because my grandson was like, I want to see a prison. So I was like, all right. And so mind you, he's 7. And so it was my daughter, my grandson, my husband, and I. And we were on the tour, and it was pretty windy outside. So I was discounting any, noises that I would hear. But we were in, I think it was cell block A. And they take you through the different cell blocks, and they even take you up to the gas chamber. And you could sit in the gas chamber if you want.
Oh.
Which is really interesting. I've sat in it once, and my daughter sat in it. And yeah, you just get this like icky feeling. But anyway, we were standing, and the tour guide was going over the information for the cell block, and he's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and move to the next spot. And I was facing him, and so I was watching him, and there weren't very many people on the tour. There was maybe like 3 other people, but my daughter, my grandson, and I distinctly heard somebody cough above us. And we all because we all looked, and we looked up, and I looked at them and I said, y'all heard that, right? And they're like, yeah. And there couldn't have possibly been anybody up there, because they keep those tours very tight. No one's allowed to wander, and no other people are in that prison other than the tour. And it was like someone clearing their throat and coughing up on like the 5th level, which was really creepy. And I looked at my husband, and he's like, I didn't hear anything. And I was like, okay. But my grandson heard it. So I was like, okay, he heard it, because he looked up. And I was like, okay, he heard that too. But we didn't try to make a big deal out of it, but they allow investigations. So if that ever anything you guys want to do, maybe next year, it's a fun prison. It's a fun prison. So yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Or even the one in Laramie. I mean, I'm close with the superintendent now, and I know if I ask her, she would let me, because she knows I would, take care of it.
Right.
But yeah, when I'm going in July, so I'm going to see if she'll let me go in there for a couple hours.
Nice.
Very cool.
Excited to hear about that.
Yeah. See how it is for not being there for, a couple of years, and see how everything is.
Are they going to remember you?
Right.
Yeah, make sure you do your hello and goodbye.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just bring a lantern. Then they'll know. You're that one. Okay.
Oh, that was you. That was you. Exactly.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now we got another place we got to look into. So, hey, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're hit the end on this one. So, for our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. I'm Kathy. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Great job, guys.
Yay.
Woo,
Lots
finally
of
got
fun.
one done.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I
was.
had a lot of fun there.
Right.
Thanks for sharing, Renee. That's some really rich history.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very awesome.
It was a lot of fun working there. It was a lot of fun. It was sad to not work there anymore, but politics.
Yeah.
It happens.
Politics ruin everything.
I know.
I'm
Right?
just kidding. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Somebody on Facebook said there's no politics in friendship, and I was like, damn, I'm going to use that when one of my friends starts talking about whatever party, right? Whatever party you want to pick. But I'm just like, I really like that.
Right? That is a good one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was sad. I ended up leaving, and I worked for elementary school, and then, we moved out here. And so I really enjoyed working there, but yeah, sometimes things come to an end.
We wouldn't have
and then
you
I
without
wouldn't be
that.
out here.
Right.
That's right.
So yeah.
Do you ever think about trying to find a museum around here to go and work with?
I looked. They don't pay enough, unfortunately. That's the downside of museum work, but I did think about, maybe next summer, maybe not volunteering, but like getting a tour guide job or something, 'cause something I love doing, but this summer, other plans.
Right.
But
then you're trying to settle in here,
That's the other thing. Yeah. Trying to figure out Wisconsin and, trying to figure out just everything,
Yeah.
I'm loving it. We're loving it. It's great out here.
There's a ton of beautiful areas out here. We were at, and I remember it now. It's not Wisconsin, but it's Tamanaquan State Park. We were at in the UP, and man, I thought I mean, I do love Ireland, but northern Wisconsin and the UP is definitely that's my second home for sure.
Wow.
So
That's second home.
Yeah, I was gonna say between Kathy and I'm sure Mika, you've probably got places, but yeah, if you're bored and you're like, man, I want a 3-day weekend getaway
Mhm.
somewhere, we all probably have a favorite spot,
So you see the background that I have of the
the
pines and
birch
everything?
trees. Oh,
That's
is that pines?
up, yeah, that's up north. That's the vision that I was going, because when you're driving through up north,
Oh
you
yeah.
start hitting those pines and you know, or the birch, I should say, not pines, but the birch and everything, and you start going
Yep.
through there. You just it has like a different feel to it.
Mm,
And it's
Yeah,
like,
like you're gonna get lost if you
yeah,
leave
it's
the
just like
road, you're gonna get lost.
endless woods. There's like
that's so
nothing
cool.
stopping it, until you
And,
hit Lake Superior, but or Lake
Right.
and you could be
Michigan.
an hour and a half between towns, which we've run into numerous times. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I'll get gas at the next town. I'm like, shit, that was a bad and stupid idea.
That's how
Exactly.
Wyoming is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Wyoming's the
know
same
out
way.
west
Yeah,
is
you
even
have like,
worse. And
yeah,
there'll
yeah,
be signs that'll tell you next gas station, 87 miles.
yeah,
They need that up north.
yeah, no
yeah.
kidding. Yeah, no, I remember going out west and that same problem. My dad's like, "Oh, we're getting low on gas." I'm like, "Dad, where are you gonna get gas? I'm not pushing, man. This
Yeah.
is
Pump it out
not
of the ground.
happening." It gets scary after a while. You're like, "Okay, I hope
Hell
there's a
yeah.
gas station." And
Especially
Yeah.
at night because there's no lights
yeah,
There's
anywhere.
nothing.
you're right.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Same with the UP.
Yeah.
yeah, same thing. That'll be us next month as we go up there. I'd be like, keep driving, driving. At least we know where we are and where we stay and stuff like that. But the first time I went up there, I'm like, where are we? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
keep on driving, keep on driving. I'm
That's
like,
funny.
there's nothing here. It's just woods.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's gorgeous. It
Yeah.
is gorgeous up there.
I have
So
to
That
get
is
up
awesome.
there. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Well, guys, I
Yeah,
suppose I'll let you guys go. Thank you again for coming out and doing this with us tonight. And
absolutely.
Absolutely.
we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please email us with your thoughts on this and any of our previous episodes. And if you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, email us at souphit@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wicked Darkness.